Yo guys, what is good? Welcome back on the Uncle Sharma channel. Today's video, top 10 Inter transfers since 2010. This is a video that I promised last week when I was doing my live stream with you guys, over 2 hours long of a live stream going through Inter's worst transfer since 2010. And here we are for the other version. So before we get into it, make sure you leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. It was a difficult one. This was a difficult video to make, guys, because once you get to it, you'll see. You try and make your top 10. Inter have been doing so well over the last decade, definitely, that yes, we've had a lot of bad transfers, but since Marotta came in, you could say Marotta has been Inter's best signing since 2010. And because of that, lots of good transfers have happened. So what I've done is whittled it down to 10 honorable mentions, one of them dishonorable, and then the top 10. And this is my reasoning or logic behind my choices. Transfer fee, of course, how much they signed him for or sold him for after signing him. Impact, which also includes trophies, and of course, longevity and time at the club, which I think are 3 good criteria to make this list. And let's start off with the honorable mention, and it is a difficult one. Some of these names you may find controversial or you may disagree with, and you may think there should be some more honorable mentions in there, like Benji Pavard or Bisek, players like that. But again, that reiterates how well Inter have done over the last few seasons and the last decade in terms of transfer. But starting off, Edin Dzeko on the left. Maybe some people might put him in the top 10 because he was so cheap from Roma. But I'll be real. We should be real. We signed him a few years too late. Yes, he contributed well. Yes, he worked hard. Yes, he was a leader on and off the pitch. But, you know, he didn't deliver us a Scudetto. Not his fault. Inzaghi used him, squeezed him like a bar of soap. Not his fault. But ultimately, I'm really happy that he played for our club, one of the best strikers of his generation. Only respect for Edin Dzeko, but not quite good enough for the top 10, in my opinion. You let me know your opinion on this one. Next up, Matty Darms. Not much needs to be said on this channel. We respect and honor Matteo Darmian. This guy signed for around 3 million euros from Parma at the time. No one turned up to his medical, but was important in the Scudetto winning season under Conte. Big goals, big performances. And then surprisingly, to my surprise, has continued to be quite important for Inter. I thought he was not going to be a starting wing back ever, or he was only going to be a centre back, but he's continued being both, even on the left-hand side sometimes. And Marotta has said that Matteo Darmian is his favourite signing at Inter. And, you know, there's many reasons for it. Next up, similar, you could say, to Matteo Darmian, Mkhitaryan came in, you know, not too much clamour, not too much excitement for the fans. From Roma, free transfer again, but immediately became a starter in that midfield next to Hakan or Brozovic and Barella. And it has been unmovable for Inzaghi. I think Inzaghi would definitely put Mkhitaryan in his top 3 if it was up to Inzaghi. But similar to Dzeko, of course, we've signed him a little bit too late in his career. It seems like he's forgotten how to score and, you know, provide final product like he used to back in his Dortmund, Arsenal, Man United days. But still, the all-round midfielder that he's become is really, really important for Inter. Next to him is this honorable mention, as I mentioned before. Yes, I know we don't like this guy. I don't like this guy now. He doesn't like us, but who cares? Lukaku, especially, we're talking about, of course, the first stint of Lukaku at Inter when we signed him from Man United. He made a massive impact. Only 2 seasons, but big first season, and then second season, Serie A MVP, of course, leading us to the Scudetto under Conte. The team was kind of built around him under Conte. And then we sold him on for even more. We signed him for 70 million and we sold him for over 100 million. So just even for that, he deserves to be a big mention. Or maybe he should be top 10 just for the financial side of it. Unfortunately, what takes it down a notch is the fact that we re-signed him on loan. Pretty much cost us 20 million just that loan in terms of transfer fee and wages. So that takes it down a notch for sure. And of course, the stuff that went on afterwards. Jan Sommer definitely deserves a mention. Very recent, not enough appearances to make the top 10, but 6 million euros from Bayern Munich. He has been a rock at the back, breaking clean sheet records. and really, really good on the ball, surprisingly. Really, really good on the ball. Marcus Thuram, again, maybe it's too soon right now, but he is moving up this list quick. Maybe if we do this tier list again in a few years, he will be maybe top 10 because his pace, his dribbling, power, the hold-up play, the finishing now as well, adding to it, the all-round striker play, the iconic celebrations. He's definitely become one of my favorite players. And again, another free transfer masterclass. How many times are we going to mention that in this video, guys? Next to him, Ashraf Hakimi, one season only, but what a one season. You could say a one season wonder. Goals and assists. People still miss him. They still want him to be the right wing back, the dream right wing back in this formation. And I agree with them. But he only was there for one season. We sold him for more than we bought him for. So he definitely deserves a mention. Next to him, he's probably his mentor when he was at Inter for Hakimi, Ivan Perisic. For many people, maybe he probably makes the top 10. And it would be hard to argue against you. But the reason why I've not included Perisic in the top 10, even though he's got 300 plus appearances for Inter and trophies, is the first half of Perisic's career. Very, very inconsistent, as Inter were just in their banter era or coming out of the banter era under Mancini, Spalletti. I used to really like him back then, but he was very inconsistent, was much better for Croatia than he was for Inter at those times. Then that loan stint to Bayern Munich when he won a treble changed everything, came back a different man. Before that, he was even putting in transfer requests to go to the Premier League. Before it was Man United, and at one point it was Arsenal as well. So people forget that he's seen as this model professional, which he did become afterwards. But yeah, that second half of his Inter career under Conte, and then that final season under Inzaghi was, for me, he was probably our MVP. What a player, and he's still going now. And some people think maybe he should still be at Inter, like Dzeko. Next to him, finishing up the honourable mentions, Onana, another one season wonder, you could say. It really was his UCL performances that get him this spot here. And of course, another free transfer and then sold for over 50 million to Prem Tards. Thank you very much. And now he's flopping over there. But what he did at Inter, replacing Handanovic for that season, should have been replaced quicker probably due to Inzaghi kind of doubtfulness over Onana. I mean, he was coming back off a year from not playing. But his Serie A campaign was okay, but yes, his Champions League campaign we'll remember for a long time, because without him, I don't think we would have got to the Champions League final. And next to him to close it up, Denzel Dumfries to replace Ashraf Hakimi. At the time, I always thought it was a smart, shrewd signing, but it wasn't one that really excited me. Still not really a player that excites me, but I've always respected him. I call him Brick Freeze. I call him, many nicknames, but I've always appreciated his mentality, his toughness, his leadership quality. And this season is probably having his best season ever at Inter, sign his new contract until 2028. And again, maybe if we make this list in a few years and if he keeps playing like this, we might look to add him in the top 10. But now, let's move on to this top 10 and start off with a very, very controversial one. You guys know, if you follow me on this channel, I don't like Mauro Icardi. He's not a guy that I like, especially the way things ended. Even in terms of his skill set, I like strikers that are much more well-rounded than he was. But when you look at any Inter goal scoring record, a top 10 Inter goal scorers, this guy always pops up, and he did it in an era where Inter were not good, coming out of the banter era, carrying the team on his back many times under Spalletti when we were playing Cross and Inshallah. Some of those iconic, massive moments in Milan derbies, can't be forgotten. For around 13 million euros from Sampdoria, and then we sold him for over 50 million euros to PSG and got rid of his wife. So financially, fantastic deal all around. And then, a guy that climbed the top 10 goal scoring charts for Inter and has a place in Inter history because of that, deserves to be in the top 10, in my opinion. Let me know in the comments down below. This is probably one of my most controversial takes of this video. Next up, another guy we don't like, unfortunately, but we have to include him, guys. This guy was probably my favorite player alongside Brozovic when he was at Inter from 2018 till obviously then he left us. 246 appearances, 11 goals, 5 assists, 1 Scudetto, 2 Coppa Italias, 2 Supercoppe. Yes, things ended on a sour note. Things should have ended much better with Milan Skriniar. Both sides could have handled things better. He went for his money to PSG. We replaced him with Benji Pavard. We don't miss him, but the impact that he had at his time cannot be denied. At the beginning, him and Miranda formed a fantastic partnership at the back. Oh yeah, Jean Miranda, of course, deserves an honourable mention as well, actually. But yeah, coming out of the Banta era, he was crucial. And then, when we started becoming a winning team as well, whether it was left centre back, not so much, but he did play out there under Conte. But as a right centre back in the three, even sometimes in the middle, where I think he should have been his role, he was really, really good. And then, yeah, financially, obviously, we had to let him go for a free transfer, which is not ideal. Liverpool fans know the pain right now as they're seeing Trent Alexander-Arnold go on a free to Real Madrid. That's the pain we felt with Milan Skriniar because we thought he was one of our own. But regardless, I think he deserves a place in the top 10 chart because we signed him for around, it says on the books, around 30 million euros. But in reality, it was 16, 17 million euros plus some, inflated Primavera guys, the typical Italian swap deal, which makes it a bargain. At one point, he definitely was one of the best centre backs in Europe, and now he isn't. Next up, another centre back who, even though he's only got 106 appearances for Inter, seems like, I feel like Acerbi's been playing for like 400, 500 appearances for Inter. He gives me, that vibe that he's been at Inter forever, but he hasn't. But his impact has been massive. Similar to Darmian Mkhitaryan, a signing that we weren't excited much about the fan base. I thought when we signed this guy, I said this is the Ranocchia replacement in terms of he's going to be the backup centre back. I'm not going to lose sleep over paying 3 or 4 million euros for this guy, but he was supposed to be a Kanji, the first choice, or other centre backs were ahead of him, but this was Inzaghi's guy, and he has delivered, over delivered, because there's the reason why I picked the picture. This guy in the biggest games against the biggest players, Haaland, Lukaku, Osimhen, Kane, hopefully soon, he over delivers. He pockets big players, and the solidity Inter have built at the back over the last few years, a lot of it is due to his leadership experience and calmness. Unfortunately, his body is starting to give up at 37 years of age. We should replace him, but he has been one of the best signings of the last decade. Francesco Acerbi, what do you think? And number 7, another more recent addition, but of course, with Hakan, there's the extra little factor, isn't it? Little bonus points, brownie points, because he came from the cousins across the Naviglio from AC Milan, where he was a winger / CAM, and then we converted him into a mezzala originally. I didn't like him too much there, but even in his first season as a mezzala, he did make an impact, lots of goals and assists. But his obviously the reason why he's in this list is when he was converted into a CDM, a regista, and in my opinion, last season for sure he was one of the top 3 CDMs in Europe. This season he's taken a little bit of a step back, but still he's so crucial to this Inter team. The way he dictates play, breaks up play, of course his set pieces are super vital. He's even finally scored a free kick for us. 3 Supercoppe, 2 Coppa Italias, and hopefully he can add another Scudetto. Hakan Çalhanoğlu, what a free transfer. Absolute masterclass. And number 6, who takes, he's higher than Hakan because I feel like his longevity for sure takes him up a notch. Another free transfer masterclass. And the thing with Stefan de Vrij is his impact at Inter started when he was at Lazio. People will remember that famous Lazio versus Inter crucial game 2017-18 to get into the top 4, to get a Champions League spot. Stefan de Vrij gives away a penalty on Mauro Icardi. Inter end up winning the game. Stefan de Vrij, who already had agreed to join Inter, joins Inter next season. The team that he was playing for doesn't end up in the Champions League, and the team he will play for ends up in the Champions League. Lazio fans are still crying about that to this day. I don't blame them, but And that's what makes the Stefan de Vrij free transfer even more sweet. And he's had some ups and downs at Inter. Let's not lie. This season has been a bit of a resurgence, but maybe a couple of seasons back we were thinking there is a clear decline in Stefan de Vrij, but not just at Inter. His impact for Netherlands, he's very underrated. When other guys like De Ligt bought for 80, 60, 70 million, Stefan de Vrij, when it comes to it at the big tournaments, he still starts for the Netherlands next to Van Dijk, which shows his quality, his experience, and he's just one of those quiet leaders in this group. That's always nice to have in the team, and he's a lovely guy on and off the pitch. Everyone knows he takes time to take pictures and autographs with fans whenever he gets a chance. Stefan de Vrij, definitely one of the best signings in my recent memory. And now we get to number 5, and I think the top 5 are quite easy to predict. And the reason why they're also top 5 is not just, again, I'm starting to take into account not just impact just for Inter, but you're starting to talk about the best players in their role. And you could say maybe I'm a bit biased because obviously Brozovic was one of my favorite players. I said about Perisic that his initial time at Inter takes him down a notch. But fortunately for Brozovic, his turnaround and impact started much earlier than Perisic, in the 2017-18 season when Brozovic was reinvented by Spalletti as a CDM, changed his life, changed his career. And after that, I could honestly, confidently say between 2018 and 2022, Brozovic was in the conversation as best CDM in Europe. Definitely top 3, top 5, whether for Inter or Croatia at the Euros, Champions League or World Cup. This guy was unbelievable. 330 appearances, 31 goals, some of them very, very big, 43 assists. Yeah, we missed this guy. What a character he was on and off the pitch. And Barella definitely misses him. That's his bestie right there. And we missed the memes. To the moon. And now number 4. This one might also be a little bit controversial. And I don't like it because over the last few years, especially with social media, people making compilations and things, Samir Handanovic's reputation seems to have gone down the drain. But I want to put some respect on it. I agree that post 2018, definitely the decline was evident, scary, but it's not his fault that Inter didn't replace him. You can't blame him for that. Between 2012 and 2018, when we had him, and his peak definitely in the mid 2010s, he was one of the best goalkeepers in Italy. 3 times he made it into the Serie A team of the season. And this was around the time when Buffon was still around, guys. 455 appearances, only 1 Scudetto, but I'm glad he actually did finally get the 1 Scudetto as a captain, 2 Coppa Italias, 2 Supercoppes, a silent leader, but always carried himself well and took over the armband, of course, from Mauro Icardi, turbulent time. Yeah, I have a lot of respect for Handanovic, and I hope people will agree with me. A 12 million euro signing to replace big shoes to fill in terms of Julio Cesar. I think Handanovic did a fantastic job, but not quite for me to make it into the top 3. I asked ChatGPT for his top 3, and for him, or they, them, Handanovic was first, actually, according to ChatGPT, for the longevity, but not for me. Not for me. In my top 3, predictably, now we get to the 3 big boys of this Inter team, the core of this Inter team, Alessandro Bastoni. When we signed him from Atalanta, again, this one is one on the books, looks like a lot of money, 30 million euros, but worth every single penny. And of course, some other random youth players were involved. But even if this was 50, 60 million at the moment, that's worth every penny, because as of the other day, Transfermarkt updated his value to be at the same as William Saliba of Arsenal. So he is the joint most valuable centre-back in the world right now. And we can confidently say, as a left centre-back of a 3 in that very specific position, he's the best. As a centre-back in general, I think we can also say top 5 conversation is definitely there for being one of the best centre-backs around. So for that reason, and of course, multiple trophies, impact, and hopefully future captain status, for a born Interista, a true Interista, that's always gonna get extra brownie points from me. So number 3 is Bastoni. Number 2, who maybe should be number 1 in reality, but here is where some bias had to come in. Lautaro Martinez is maybe should be number 1, as I said, because 25 million from Racing in Argentina when we signed him. That inter-Argentinian heritage really, really came through in this case. No arguments. This guy over-delivered. We had expectations from him when we signed him, but I'll be real. Did I expect him to be here 300 appearances later, 147 goals later, 49 assists later, 2 Scudetti later, 3 Supercoppa and 2 Coppa Italia later, and as a Capitano? No, I did not. I thought he was going to go to Barcelona, one of those teams. But he is still here, and he is a leader on and off the pitch. The way he carries himself, the way he works hard, even when he's not been playing well, which this season we know he hasn't. But last season he was should have been more in the running for the Ballon d'Or for sure. Again, a guy that when he's on form, definitely not this season, but we can say top 5 or one of the best strikers in the world. Yeah, amazing. Hopefully Lautaro and this Argentinian connection can keep giving us yields in the future as well. Some of this Argentinian connection can keep helping us. And he's still 27, so hopefully he's still got a lot to give and many more trophies to win as a Capitano at Inter. And now, drum roll, number 1, no shock, as there's only one guy really left to talk about, and it is Nicolo Barella. Number 1 for me because, as I said, personal bias. I slightly maybe have a preference towards Barella over Lautaro as my favorite players at Inter. But again, the bonus points come from him being an Interista from Cagliari, born in an Interista family. We paid more for Barella than we paid for Lautaro and Bastoni. 50 million euros now with all the bonuses that have matured and no dodgy, overinflated youth players going the other way. This was pure money. But again, we are talking about a midfielder here that we can confidently say is one of the best in his role. If Inter had delivered a Champions League or more European titles, he would be in that conversation regularly. But you can see this guy wants to be at Inter, wants to stay at Inter. Recently, last couple of days, there's a rumor come out that he's rejected a 35 million net yearly offer from Saudi Arabia. He's just Inter through and through. People were putting this guy in all-time Inter 11s already when first couple of seasons we signed him. And I thought maybe it was a bit early to do that, but you could just see it. The trajectory was there, and you can just tell if you could keep going like he is now. Yes, 25 goals, 29 assists. Maybe you think you could be doing a bit more in terms of that, but he's a total midfielder. He's developed himself. His leadership is getting there. He's definitely a future captain. We love Nicolo Barella. And hopefully the 2 ex-Scudetti becomes 3. Supercoppa becomes more. Coppa Italia becomes more. And hopefully he can add maybe a Champions League to that amazing catalogue. Well, that's it, guys. That was my top 10. As I said, it was very difficult to make the honorable list as well. There's probably more names that should be mentioned, but I want your list now. You do the hard work. It is hard. I want to hear your top 10, rank them down, and let me know some players that maybe we should be also mentioning. Leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. See you on the next one. Ciao, ragazzi. Always